Hello, I am Ayoyalaipe, and I like to hop into top tier air arcade matches and then personally kill the entire enemy team by myself. So I'm going to make a series of guides teaching you how to play War Thunder's most difficult and chaotic game mode. The definition of chaos is a full 16v16 rank 8 air arcade match on a flat map with 3 objectives packed close together, and that's what I have for you today. Now, with most rank 6 and many rank 7 matches, I'll start by climbing and hitting people from above, but the advent of good long-range radar missiles makes that pretty suicidal by rank 8 for most planes, and this is a rank 8 match. So it's generally better to hook around the side and go for a flank. While I'm way off to the side here, it's hard to kill me, so everyone ignores me because there's far easier targets right in front of them. After all, what am I gonna do? Kill the whole team by myself? But that'd be ridiculous. And I'm going to pause this video twice near the start just so I can point out a few key details so you can understand what's going on throughout the match. You see here, by the time I circle back to attack, no enemy player is facing towards me. The angle I'm playing here is target fixation. The enemy players have already picked out their targets. They can see me, yes, but they're not fully registering that I'm there because they're focused on their target and I'm not their target. So if I come in from a weird angle, like a flank early in the match, flying really fast and outrun everyone's turns, I can pass through the swarm hitting targets of opportunity as I go before most players' brains have a time to register me as a potential target and therefore chase me. That means most or all enemy players won't attack me if I move fast enough. I might get chased by 1 or 2 stragglers, but 1 or 2 people is manageable. Getting killed by 10 is not. And like clockwork, I have a straggler that's about to slip in behind me, but I'm not concerned because his behavior makes it very clear that he is fixated on me. And that's because there's 2 friendly players that are sort of generally behind him when he decides to attack me. An alert player wouldn't do that. And I can also tell that he's not reacting to one of my teammates slipping in behind him. I now know this guy is completely fixated on killing me, but that makes it very easy for me to set him up to be killed by something that isn't me because he's only paying attention to me. So I'm going to hit the deck and use the trees to dodge his missiles. Ground clutter messes up his radar missiles, and IR missiles need to curve down a bit to get you. And if they curve down a bit to get me, they just hit a tree. So if we're both on the deck and I'm right at or even below treetop level, he can't really get me. My plan A is to keep my pursuer focused on me while I line up to give my teammate, who my pursuer doesn't realize is behind him, an easy shot. However, I also notice that my teammate is fixated on my pursuer and not the other enemies who are behind him in turn. It's a sandwich of confusion, so I make a plan B. My teammate did wind up killing him, but plan B would have been to keep flying until I kill this F4S way over there that's dogfighting a friendly F4J. If I did that, then the friendly F4J would have been freed up, and my pursuer would have faced a 2v1 dogfight on a remote area of the map with no backup. I'm going to kill the F4S anyways, however, because it makes a whole chunk of this map devoid of enemy players. That means I can reload my weapons and countermeasures in safety. You'll want to time things that so when it comes time to reload missiles and countermeasures, you can either be hiding behind a hill or so far away that you simply outrange your enemies. And if there's no hill, outranging them is the only viable option. And now I'm just going to circle back and repeat the flank, and I don't need to pause it because you should have a decent idea of what's going on now. And that's one of the key takeaways from this video. You don't just hope that your enemies are distracted, you can actively look for telltale signs that they are distracted and exploit it. This high up in the tech tree, you really need to not only know your plane, but also know how to get inside other players' heads. So many players have so much firepower that victory will more often than not go to the person who knows how to use smoke and mirrors to control the confusion and harness it for their ends. This is also why, by rank 8, turn and burn dogfighting is the exception, not the rule. It's all about energy fighting, particularly if you are a maniac like me who solo queues into matches. Things are a bit different if you're in a squadron with voice comms, but that's for a whole other video. Top tier air arcade is a thinking man's game, and energy fighting simply gives your opponents less time to think. This tends to get easier as the match goes on because the teams tend to thin out and players tend to get into increasingly worse planes as their good ones get shot down. So if you're able to stay in your best plane, you can get a snowball effect going, and snowballing an entire enemy team is so much fun. Also, I should mention some basics about the Mig-23 MLD. This isn't a Mig-23 guy, but I want you to know what's going on. This plane is really stupid fast, and it has R-24s and R-60s as its main weapons. The R-24s are good missiles. You can take 2, and I generally take one of the radar version and one of the IR version. The radar ones are better in isolation, but I found that the timing works out better for me if I take one of each. If I'm making a pass through an enemy team, my preferred approach is to fire the R-24T first because it's the fire and forget one, and then I use the R-24R. And by the time that missile's been guided into the target, I should be close enough to switch to my R60Ms. The R60Ms turn hard right off the rack and are very maneuverable, but they really chase flares. The trick is to fire so close that your opponent doesn't have time to flare the missile. but that's not always possible in practice, and they're not worth holding up my R24 reload. So if you see me taking mid-range pot shots with R60Ms, that's what's up. Please note that is not how you're usually supposed to use that missile. Now, I have a serious problem right here. I'm now pulling out to reload, but this F4S just unexpectedly turned around to attack me. I have no bullets, no missiles, and no countermeasures at the moment. My plane is a sitting duck. However, I know the power positioning, and my plane is still moving very fast. So I need to set up a trap. First off, I hit the deck and hope my pursuer follows me down onto the deck, which they almost always do. Getting directly behind your target at an ultra low altitude when there's tree cover is usually a mistake. And here's a crude Microsoft Paint diagram illustrating the reason why. Now I can use the trees to dodge his missiles as I lead him directly in front of my own spawn, which gives anyone who respawns an easy shot at him. When my teammate appears, he misses the easy shot I gave him, but it still forces my pursuer to break off his attack on me. During the confusion, I slip behind my pursuer and then begin pursuing him. While turn and burn dogfights are the exception, not the rule this high in the tech tree, they still do happen from time to time. And ultimately, I take him down as soon as my missiles reload. And when I'm talking about teammate, I want to be clear, these are random strangers. I solo queued in this match, I'm not in voice comms with any of these people, and I never even spoke a word in chat in this game. However, you don't need to speak to someone to get them to do your bidding. Humans have predictable behavioral patterns that you can identify and exploit, and War Thunder is no different. If you've seen my other videos, you'll know that I sometimes start matches by using tricks to figure out which individuals will break the mold so I can kill them first and get them out of the way. But getting back to the fight in front of us, I have all these enemies facing generally towards me, but I also have a lot of teammates behind me. So once I finish my frontal attack, I flip around and get the enemies from behind. If I ever ran into trouble, I knew I had enough countermeasures to delay any pursuer from killing me long enough that I could set up one of my many teammates to shoot the pursuer off my tail for me. Also, I didn't have time to touch on this during the dogfight itself, but you might have noticed I made two almost identical R60M shots on a fast Mig-21 and then a slow A-10. The Mig-21 just barely dodged the missile while the A-10 got nailed. That's because the Mig-21 was flying so fast that it basically outran the missile's turn, but the A-10 was going so slow that it couldn't do that. I thought that was just a really clear example of how in top tier every random thing gets easier the faster you're going. Anyways, I just completely scuff up this whole attack here. All my shots are a half second too late, but I don't give my enemies any easy shots at me, so I can just pull out and try again. I do miss a few kills, but oh well, I'm not exactly hurting for kills at the moment. And remember, it makes complete sense to disengage if you don't have an advantage anymore. This is War Thunder, it's all about calculated risks. So feel free to roll the dice, but make sure they're loaded dice first. You are under no obligation to give enemy players an easy shot or a fair fight, and you would be silly to do so willingly. Just ask this random prop plane that I shoot in the face with a radar missile. I start these last few kills by attacking this AV-8 and crippling him, but I break off because this SU-7 appeared. He doesn't have any flares, so he's a very easy kill, so I'm just going to go ahead and get him out of the way. Now, notice how I checked the map a few times while I chased down and finished off that AV-8. I was in front of the enemy spawn, so it'd be very easy for anyone who just happened to spawn in to kill me, unless I quickly saw them and cut under them before they had the chance to attack. So I was in a positioning disadvantage, but I had a plan B. In TTAA, killing people is relatively easy, but not being killed with so many missiles flying through the air is really hard. And every time you die, you have to hop into a worse plane that's even easier to shoot down. So the key to doing well is not opening yourself up to attack while you slowly build an advantage, and then just snowballing the enemy team. And we now only have one enemy left, it's an F4C, and he crashes, so that's that team dead. Since this was a huge 16v16 match, there were so many players shooting at each other that I was actually only able to get about a third of my team's overall kills, which is a bit of a bummer, but I still thought this was a pretty neat game. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's a link to a few of my other videos, as well as a playlist of my other guides for this game. They're all worth watching according to their ridiculous upvote ratings. And if you want to watch my videos in the future and don't want to remember how to spell Aoyolaipe, then you should subscribe and ring the bell button. Also, congratulations to Roach God, yes, that guy again, for almost immediately re-breaking his own world record. I have a link to that new video in the description.